This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. There's a growing movement in Indian country to raise healthy food on site, and the Rosebud Sioux Tribe has joined that initiative. The Rosebud Economic Development Corporation hosts a food sovereignty program focusing on the health of the community. Victoria Wicks has more.
Michael Prate says Rosebud's people have to travel for miles to buy fresh produce and meat, and when healthy food is available, it is often prohibitively expensive. He says this situation has historical roots in military strategy when the U.S. government intentionally eliminated food sources, like bison, to erode the power of indigenous people.
And once a person or a nation is unable to provide food for themselves, and that immediately sort of forces a very different bargaining situation. You know, historically, food was a major part of why people moved to reservations in the first place, why people, were feeling like they needed to sign these treaties.
Prate says Rosebud is trying to regain control of its food system to gain independence from outside sources. The initiative has started small, on 1/3 of an acre. Prate says last year the garden produced 7,000 pounds of produce, and he's hoping for more next year. He says calculations have to be done to determine how much food it takes to feed Rosebud's population.
Those are the kind of questions that we need to ask, is like, what will it actually take to feed people? And that's like, at a basic level, if everybody needs 2,000 calories, how could we provide that?
Prate says young people like to help with the gardens, and there's a therapeutic quality to gardening that consoles people who have gone through trauma. The food initiative has included a farmer's market in Mission, but Prate says people can't always travel there. And so in the next growing season, he's also planning a mobile farmer's market to get the food where it's needed. For National Native News, I'm Victoria Wicks in Rapid City, South Dakota.
In Wyoming, a state lawmaker is working with the Eastern Shoshone and Northern Arapaho tribes on legislation to address human remains and tribal items disturbed on private lands. Taylor Stagner reports.
Under a newly proposed bill, when human bones are found while digging a new irrigation ditch, the county coroner must be called to investigate. They will determine if what was found is an archaeological burial site. If so, the state archaeologist would be brought in to evaluate if the remains are Native American. The bill includes handling the remains with respect and getting permission from the landowner to rebury the remains where they were found. Cheyenne Senator Affie Ellis says a story of lost items of an Eastern Shoshone girl in the 1960s sparked her interest in this bill.
We were notified or made aware of a situation that happened in the 1960s of the remains of an Eastern Shoshone girl who was found in the Du Bois area. And some of those remains and funerary objects were lost or taken. I think that case really illustrated to me the importance of acting quickly to secure the integrity and protect the remains and its funerary objects.
Ellis also says the bill has the potential to protect remains in any situation where the earth is disturbed.
Energy development increases in Converse County. That was an area very important to a lot of tribes. Fort Laramie site is a very important place historically for Wyoming where tribes and trappers and others gathered.
If the remains are found on state or privately owned property, penalties for the individuals who fail to notify the coroner's office would include up to 6 months in jail or a fine of $750. While under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, if remains are found on federally owned land, the fine is $100,000, 1 year in jail for the first offense, plus it's a felony. The Arapaho Historical Preservation Office would like the fine raised to match federal regulation. I'm Taylor Stagner.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced at the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation. Funding is by Odawi Law Group, provider of Indian law solutions, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with support from the Public Radio Satellite System.
Support by the Sisseton, Wahpeton, Oyate Tribes, Dakota Western Corporation, and SWO Plastics. Commercial strength trash bags from 3 to 65 gallons for industrial use by casinos, the IHS, and more. DakotaWesternCorp.com.
Support by BNSF Railway Company. BNSF honors the commitment of armed forces members and is a top employer for U.S. military veterans, hiring over 9,000 veterans since 2005. More at jobs.bnsf.com.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.